Hey there, everyone. Welcome back. I'm your host, Brandy J. This is Behind the Mic, but also will be on Voices of Courage. I have with me today the amazing Mac McGregor, our author of Masculine, Positive Masculinity. I mean,
Yes.
come on, Brandy, get it together. Positive Masculinity. And let's go ahead and say hello to Mac. How you
Hi.
doing? Hi.
It's good to be here. And the book title is actually Positive Masculinity Now, um,
Okay.
because we need it now.
Yes. Yes. Because that word, well, I guess that'll be, the start of the question I wanted to ask you. And so
Mhm.
when you hear the words positive masculinity and toxic masculinity, what
Hmm,
do you want people to understand about those two?
hmm. Yeah, I define that there's a difference, first of all, between what I call toxic masculinity and traditional masculinity. And I think it's important that we differentiate those two because anything can become toxic, I believe, if you try to force it on someone else.
For
Right.
sure.
But if I have my own personal beliefs and run my life a certain way, and I don't try to push that on anyone else, that can just be maybe traditional values. And it may not be toxic, right? Because you're not pushing it on anyone else. You can choose to live your personal life the way you want. So I think there is a difference. Now, the difference between traditional toxic masculinity versus positive masculinity is an inclusive masculinity, whereas even traditional masculinity I would call exclusive. Even only certain kinds of guys are okay in that group because you have to be the macho, tough guy. You have to fill that old traditional model of the man's man to really be celebrated in that traditional masculine world. What I'm talking about with positive masculinity is being inclusive of all the different types of masculinity, as well as inclusive and supportive to women and people who identify in other ways. So that's a short version of the definition.
Okay, okay. That's I can dig it. I can dig it most definitely because I hear that especially like in these like clubhouse groups and all that stuff, and it triggers people a lot when they hear the word. I hear the word toxic um,
Right.
masculinity, and I never really think too much into it, but it bothers
It
people.
does. And because some folks then believe that you're just saying all men are toxic and all
Right.
masculinity is toxic. And I don't believe that's true. There are certain aspects that have been predominant in the masculine culture and the patriarchy, like rape culture. I think we can all agree that's toxic.
Yeah.
You know? Right. Like
Very.
men not understanding consent, that's toxic.
Yeah.
And so anything that I think, like that is really easy to identify as toxic. And of course, we all know that there are good men that don't, that are respectful of other people and that, don't do those things. So,
True.
so I think we have to talk about it in a way where we understand, there's a spectrum, just like with everything else, right? There are men that do respect the values of other people and respect consent and try to do good work in the world. So yeah, I just think we can't just blanket say all masculinity is toxic.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, that's a thing I struggle like gets to me like when you generalize like well all women do this and all men I'm like
Right.
ugh, that's not
That's
even accurate. You don't know all men. You don't know all women.
that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
I'm like, why do you say these things?
And when you think about it, how many different forms of masculinity there are, it's the same thing with femininity, right? There's not one way to be a woman. There's not one way to be a man.
Right.
you know, we have everything from the Rock, Dwayne Johnson, kind of muscle tough guy, to Mr. Rogers. Those are very different forms of masculinity. Very different, right?
Yeah.
And they're still masculinity. And that you could say the same thing. You could use the same examples with women. We have very feminine women, and we have Ronda Rousey, the female, badass fighter. So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, but in society they'll call it her being what, like, being what's the word they use, like manly, or
Tomboy
adopting.
or yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
too not feminine enough, too man,
right.
as if she's portraying the opposite of femininity. They don't really see it as that a form of femininity.
Well, look at even Serena Williams, how strong she is physically.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's an amazing athlete, right? So anyway, yeah, just saying that women can't be physically strong is ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think
yeah,
this, with more understanding, we have to like listen to the thing. We have to just be more like logical and rational, when we actually speak and think things through.
yes, and not just repeat the things we've heard, right? That's so much of what I do in my book is it walks people through their socialization and social conditioning around gender and around, this book has things to help anybody of any gender, because it walks you through the modeling you had, and it allows you to go back and look at it and see if it still serves you well today, or if
Mm,
you want to find a better way for yourself and for your life.
I like that. I like that. And that does touch on different, you can use that in different areas
Of
and
course.
stuff. Like checking in on your belief system. Like, do you still believe these things?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly right. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, you
Okay.
think about what they say to little girls. I always bring this up when I teach gender. You think of the thing, because I don't just teach. I teach gender 101 all the time to co-ed groups. Think when they say to a little girl, "Hey, you need to act like a lady." What is that saying?
Man, did I ever hear that before? Act like a lady. I can't even tell you what it's basically telling her that how she is wrong.
That's right, that she's not doing something right
Yeah,
in their view, right, of what she should be as a lady.
yeah,
And so a lot of times it's stay in your lane. You know what I mean? It's kind of
yeah,
like stay over here where you're supposed to. Maybe you're being too loud or too assertive or too whatever, right?
yeah.
And it's the same thing when they tell a little boy to man up.
Mm,
It's these things that, hey, no man is always strong. No man always has the answers. No man can keep it together all the time. And I mean, these old messages just don't work for us anymore. Hopefully we're evolving and we can come to a place where we can work together, and learn that we're all emotional beings. We all have times when we're strong and times when we're not, times when we need help, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the huge word here is human being, and when you say
Yes.
that, there, it's like so that comes with emotions and those social constructs, those things we hear when we're like younger, and when you just said how act like a lady or man up, those were those insecurities and stuff start for people that they and
That's
when you
true.
said that right now, I knew it, but it registered even more so, just those messages you receive like growing up.
Yeah, and then you have shame, that you build up inside around if I'm not doing those things, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And that we carry that through our life. So a lot of what I do in my book and in my work is I try to free people from that and let them be themselves and let them choose with an adult conscious mind how they want to walk in the world,
yeah.
and just let go of those old messages that aren't doing them good.
Yeah, most definitely. Oh, I love it. Most definitely. It makes for a better world, happier.
Yeah,
People be themselves, and then we can help people be themselves because we have to be accountable too by the things we say. And nobody wants to hold accountability. Like, it's a free country, I can say what I want and just deal with it. And I'm like, no, we are
mhm,
responsible for how we make each other feel human. And
that's right.
yeah,
Yeah, we live in community, and we are, I mean, let's go back to our very nature. We're pack animals, right? We are meant to live in community. We're
yeah,
wired that way, right?
yep,
So we do have to be concerned for our impact on one another within community.
yeah, for sure.
That's just being a decent human. That's just being kind. You know?
Right.
Yeah,
Then turn around and sit back and be like, "What's wrong with mental health? We need to do something about it." I'm like, "You think?
yeah,
What role
yeah.
have you played in it? Who did you judge and stereotype and pick apart today?" you
That's so
know?
right. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got. I was a kid, My grandmother, my Nana, I called her Nana. She used to always say this to me. She'd say, when you point your finger at somebody, I'm trying to hold it where you can see it, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. Look down, 3 fingers are pointing right back at you. So think about that before you point your finger and say anything.
Huh.
I was like, oh boy, that's a wake up call, isn't it?
Yep, very much so.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Some
this is
wise advice.
yes, yes, and wisdom is very much needed. There's so much to cover here in such a small amount of time, but uh, I do want to for you to also share with the listeners more about, because let's be honest here, Mac. You're very handsome, and you would never have thought. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. You
Oh
know,
yeah, I have. Yeah,
you
you'd have
never have
never
thought
thought that
that.
I'm transgender. Yeah, here I am,
Yeah.
a transgender man talking about gender. Right. I had a real, well, thank you that I'm an old guy now. So anybody that tells me I'm handsome, I say thank you very much. I had such an interesting life's journey, right? I was 4 years old growing up in the Bible Belt in the South when I started changing my name to a masculine name, playing with other kids. The word transgender had not even been invented yet. And I didn't know how to describe what I was feeling. I just knew that the feminine name I was given didn't fit. And the expectations they had of me, because I was born, with an F on my birth certificate, didn't fit, right? I didn't know how to describe it. So I just knew that maybe I'll just change my name. And I dressed the way I wanted to dress. I dressed in little cowboy boots and jeans, and, I didn't dress, girly. And so that's the only way I knew how to express it. So it was quite the interesting journey growing up in the South in the Bible Belt as somebody who, you know, is transgender. I didn't have anybody to talk to about it.
Oh, did we freeze?
Nobody that
Oh,
I,
what's going on?
can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I don't know.
Oh,
Like
good,
it froze for like
good,
a
good.
second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
Okay.
didn't have anybody to talk to about it. There was nobody out that I knew that was LGBTQ to talk to at all. Um, and of course, we didn't have the internet back then to find community or find anybody to talk to. So yeah, it was a very interesting journey. And now, yeah, I do what we call pass. So I pass as, nobody questions. They call me sir if I walk into a restaurant. But it's been a long journey to get here. I didn't start medical transition till I was 39 years old. Well, 40 actually. 40 is when I actually started the medical part of transition. So because I was on the U.S. karate team and I was competing until 39,
Wow.
and they wouldn't have allowed me to continue competing if I had started, before that. So I made a choice. It's such a rare opportunity to do that as long as I could. And so after I retired from competition, I began this journey. And it's been so interesting. It's quite an interesting study of human behavior, of how people treat you as you're going through this process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Uh,
as the top female athlete before I transitioned and small business owner, I experienced sexism in the world in that way of how I was treated. Then going through the transition, I experienced how people treat you. And now on this side of it, it's a very different experience of how people treat you. It's so interesting. It's given me, I will tell you my experience of living the first 40 years in what everybody thought was as a female, right? I'm a far better man because of that experience. I really am, because I have so much more understanding and compassion and a bigger view of the world as a whole.
yeah.
So
Gives you more tolerance for like the ignorance of some people, a little bit more patience and stuff.
yeah, well, it's just I help educate because of my martial arts background. It's so interesting that men will listen to me to teach them about gender and talk to them because they respect that I'm a warrior. Flat out, men respect strength generally, right?
Yeah.
So they know because I've won all these awards in fighting all over the world that, basically I can kick ass if I can just be frank, and that speaks to them. But what that does is it allows them to open up and listen to me talk about these experiences so they can have hopefully more compassion and understanding for people as well. It's interesting. Even the police department brings me in to train them on gender. The U.S. Border Patrol. I've trained the military. A general brought me into the military base to teach about gender. It's crazy, and a lot of that is due to my martial arts background.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I have just so much that's like running through my head right now because I have my own little interesting story. But if we have time, we'll get to it. Yeah, I saw that all the stuff you do. You were the first transgender, just in general, just transgender, right, to be put on the ballot when you
Right.
ran for. Was it in Washington?
Yes, I ran for city council in Seattle, and I was the first transgender person to make it onto a ballot in the state of Washington. Mm-hmm.
That's
It was
amazing.
quite a learning experience.
That's amazing.
And
Was
I
there
got
any
death
pushback
threats.
there?
I got death threats even in Seattle,
Oh.
even in liberal Seattle.
Oh.
Yeah, there was me at the same time. Seattle's a big city, but there was me and a gay Muslim guy also running for office in the city at the same time, and we're the two who got death threats.
Wow.
It's interesting that no matter where you are, there's going to be people who, if somebody's different than them or somebody's different in a way they don't understand, for some reason they feel threatened and have to spew hate at them.
Yeah,
I don't understand that.
That's like the norm for just it seems like human beings in general. Like you like want to off somebody, and I'm just like, this is a problem we need to talk about more because we have the
problem.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like that. You can not understand something or maybe even not like it or feel a certain way without going there,
without being hateful. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, it's so interesting because I think I have such a diverse group of friends and people in my life, and I love that because I think that enhances my life because I get to hear from different perspectives and different cultural backgrounds and all of this, and I think that is a wonderful thing. But some people feel very threatened by that. Unfortunately, imagine if all your friends and your circle of people were the same. How boring would that be?
Right? Really, you'd like nothing to talk about or nothing. Like you wouldn't even want to hang with them.
You might as well just stay home and hang out with yourself, right?
Exactly. So that's why we should know it's okay to be who you are and to be different. I feel like as long as you're not hurting anybody, murdering and doing any of that and harming yourself, then it all works itself out. We just love.
So true.
Empathy and everything else. All the other little discrepancies, they'll work themselves out.
Yeah. I've had the privilege because of being on the I got on the U.S. karate team when I was 17. And because of I won the U.S. fighting title at 17. And because of that experience, I was able to start traveling all over the world, which got me out of that little pocket of the Bible Belt and allowed me to meet people, like such a variety of types of people from all over, and get and gain different experiences from talking to them about their cultures and their lives. And that was just one of the best educations I could ever have. And I think there's so many people, unfortunately, in our country who have never left our country. So this is all they know. So they have a smaller, and what do they say? The average person doesn't move more than 100 miles from where they were born in their lifetime, which is just crazy to me. But so a lot of people they have a very narrow view because of that.
Yeah. And then to be honest, in the US, we have a very, I would even say, reputation of how we can be, and it's not really a good, it's not good at all. Every
Yeah.
time I talk to somebody like in India or something like that, and they ask me about where you from or the U.S., I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
over
I know.
here,
I know. I feel like I have to apologize a lot of times. Yeah, I'm
right,
sorry, because Americans a lot of times are arrogant and full of themselves. Yeah.
right, right. They're like, where are you from? You? I'm like, me? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm from.
Yeah, I know.
Goodness,
Yeah.
goodness gracious,
Hopefully
man, oh
we'll
man.
get back to being, we're supposed to be known to be the melting pot,
Right.
which means a melting pot of people from very different backgrounds and experiences, right?
Yeah, but they didn't say like everything, like melting pot. But like, how is that melting pot? You would think you have a melting pot, but people just don't like each
Right.
other.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as you know, there's a difference between tolerance and real acceptance.
Yeah.
And some people tolerate people that are different than them, but that certainly doesn't make us feel welcome if you're somebody different than them, right?
At all, right? Because it's kind of like, mm. you know,
Yeah.
you kind of can feel it and get the look, and it's like, I don't know. I just don't get it. So much more
Yeah.
that we're amazing creatures, human beings, and we just kind of like we're not even living life, like really experiencing like life, like this
Right.
beautiful world, the sky, the animals, just life in general, like this whole experience.
I know it fascinates me how some people can say they're bored because there's so much to explore and experience. And
Yeah,
every person you meet has an interesting story. You just have to get to it. You just have to
exactly.
want to know the story, right?
Exactly. That so says a lot about people that they really like. I don't really care about your life, what you do, blah blah blah. It's like, and that kind of sucks because I think we should be interested in learning about like one another.
Oh, one of the key components that I teach the guys, one of the other things I do is run a positive masculinity monthly discussion group. And I've done that for over 4 years now, where I get masculine people to come together in a safe space and be able to have real open discussion and in a supportive environment, because we're all there for one another's growth. That's the tone we set for these meetings. And we have a different discussion topic every month. And it's just one of the key components I teach is curiosity to these guys. Is if that is such like a key component to having a thriving life, because if we stay curious about getting to know a little more about the people around us, curious about getting to know ourselves better, even, right? Curious
Yeah.
about the world and how things work and this beautiful planet we live on. I mean, that's what keeps it interesting, is being
Yeah.
curious. You know?
It really does. It
Yeah.
really does. 'Cause that's like what I do, especially with podcasting. I'm always like, always, and the time just gets away from me, and I don't get a lot done because I'll start reading about things like right now I'm into physics, or am I saying that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
And
metaphysics. Yeah.
yeah, from that to
Right.
government, then I do a show on animals. It's just my things. But it makes that's who I am, and it's interesting instead of just sitting in front of the tube all day.
Right.
you know
That's right. Well, you're growth minded, and that's a big thing. People that continue to grow, first of all, they don't age as fast. They stay younger.
that's true.
Because you're constantly stimulating your mind, right?
Yeah,
And that's so important for our overall health.
yeah, it is very
Mhm.
much so. Oh, I love this. Okay, I'm trying not to, and I was like, don't look down at the paper. But
Okay.
I have some good stuff on here, so I got to look. I did want you to talk a little bit more because I know you have a few like organizations that do different things with people that you work with and also youth too. And so I kind of want the listeners to hear a little bit about that too.
Yeah, well, I turned this positive masculinity into a nonprofit, first of all. And so I do that, and I do the monthly discussion group, and then we teach workshops. And one of the workshops we teach is, can you imagine, is positive masculinity for teens? Can you imagine if we start young people off with shedding all that shame about, trying to wear the man mask or the woman mask or whatever? Then they don't carry that their whole life
Right.
and let it affect them. I'm also, I've been very involved with PFLAG, which is the parents. It's the largest LGBTQ nonprofit in the United States. Was started by the mom of a gay guy in the 1970s to help educate other families that when someone comes out in their family, how to be there and support them, and that it's going to be okay. That there are other
Yeah.
parents that have been through it that'll be there to talk to you, and grandparents and siblings and so on. So I've been very involved in that work as well. And I also am involved in the city. Like I've been a city commissioner here in Seattle because I believe it's so important. Now I'm on my second commission. I was chair of Seattle's LGBTQ commission for a long time, and now I'm on the Seattle Renters Commission fighting for renters' rights, because I
Awesome. I
believe
like that.
housing is a human right. Everybody should have housing, and we're constantly, trying to work to. So what we do on commissions is we advise the city council and the mayor about things for that specific topic. And so, yeah, I believe we have to get involved in order to
Yeah.
make positive change, right?
Ooh, high five. Yes.
Yes,
Right. That's what I
yes,
tell people. I'm like, you want to see change. You just don't look towards the government and just be like, well, what are you going to? No, we have to empower ourselves, and we
yeah,
tell them what we're going to do.
that's right.
Or like, move over, I'm coming.
Yeah. Yeah. My papa, taught me when I was very young about that. He said, yeah, don't just sit outside of a group and complain. If you want to see things change, you got to get in there and be a part of it.
Yeah, most definitely. But I don't know if you noticed too that there's that part of people, because I'm a thought provoker. I like to like make people really think, and then it's like you get the people that I wouldn't even say if they're just being negative. I think they truly believe that this is how the world is. It's just messed up, and then we did change it. What can I do? And to me, it's just like, well, I don't know about what you. I know for me, that's not my story.
Yeah,
I know I can. When you get told you can't change the world, or you can't do this, you can't. Just think about if like people before us, like the people that actually impacted and changed things, they actually listened to, you know,
that's right.
those people, then what would have happened? We wouldn't be where we are now. It's not that great, but it's way better than it was
It sure
before.
is. It sure is. And, I go back to, because I've been to the country of Haiti 8 times on medical missions trips. And that changed my life. Boy, that's what an experience that is. Um, but one of the things, Mother Teresa has a home for the dying there and a home for the dying babies. And one of the things that we volunteered there for a couple of days when we were there. And one of the things the nun said that Mother Teresa always said was, if each of us even helps just one other person and makes a difference in one other person's life, you think of what that would do in the world if each one of us did that.
Yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
that was just, and she was saying this in response to people who look at the problem and go, there's too many hungry people, we can't do it, it's too overwhelming. But she said, if each of us just help one.
Yeah.
Wow, that's some wisdom,
Powerful.
right?
Yeah.
Because we can look at these situations like the homeless and like hunger and like all of this and go, it's just too much, right? I can't fix it all by myself. You can't
Like
fix it
you're
all
right.
by yourself, right?
Right. Yeah.
But what can we do? We can each commit to helping one, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds
And
more logical, reasonable.
that's right. And if everybody did that, there would be no more homeless problem. There'd be no more hunger. If all of
Exactly.
us just helped one, that's the thing. So, each of us, I believe, my radio show, as I have a radio show. It's called the You Can
Yeah.
Make a Difference show. And what I do is I shine a light on people that are, because there's so many good people. And most of the time we only hear about the bad news,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I shine a light on people that are doing positive things to make a difference. And I tell people on my show every day, because I hope that inspires other people that they can make a difference, is that it's within all of our power to make a difference every single day. And
Amen.
sometimes it can be something so simple as actually smiling at the cashier when you're checking out and saying,
High
I
five.
appreciate you. I
Yes.
appreciate you, or complimenting them. You have a nice smile. Just make something that brightens their day.
Yep.
That's making a difference, right?
It is. It is. I feel like
Yeah.
like you're me and I'm you, like we're there.
Maybe we're soul siblings.
Right? I think we may be.
That's what I call it.
I feel
A
it. I
sister
feel
from
it.
another mister. Yeah, there you go.
Right? Right? I
Yes,
was just sitting here
I
thinking,
love
I was
it.
like, I love your you just had this smile on your face this whole time, and it's like from the inside out, you can just tell, your your sincereness, your kindness, your soul, and just how much you love what you do, you love you, and you just love.
I wake up a little bit every day just amazed at the opportunities that that we have to walk in this beautiful world and meet all these amazing people like you. I love this. I love when we get to just make new connections with people. I
Yeah,
think that's amazing, right?
it is. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's like the best part for me of doing podcasting and radio and stuff is the connections I've made, the friends I've made through guests and the other, podcasters. It's like that's like the number one thing that I just love the most.
Me too. I've stayed friends with a lot of the people I've had on as guests too. Yeah. That's
Best
great.
friends ever.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Unfortunately, they all live somewhere else. So,
But you
not
know
I
what?
can't find in my city.
Sometimes you visit, and so then you gotta.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
I
had
did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can visit. I just had an
Hmm.
old friend come visit from high school. You never know when somebody's from years are going to come through and you get to visit. You get to actually sit down and break bread together.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely.
Yes.
People connecting. How awful would it be to? I guess we kind of got a gist of it, to not be able to be around or see other people. You know how we take it for granted. You're like, oh, let's see,
Right.
our family's coming over, But some
Yeah.
people really, like mentally, lost it, and literally some took their lives, from the isolation. And
Right.
I mean, it even had a effect on myself. And so just imagine if that was our reality, and we probably take,
Wow.
relook at
Yeah.
everything.
Oh, so yeah, I have some friends that didn't have even a roommate or anything. They just had their cat or their dog, and they were, so they had nobody to hunker down with, as we say in the South, right?
Yeah.
And so that was really hard. I'm grateful I have an amazing wife, amazing partner, and we were able to be here together through all that. But yeah, that gives us a taste of
Hmm.
what it is to be separated and isolated. And thank the gods for this type of thing that we have, that we were still. It's not the same as us being in person,
Yeah.
but we were still able to reach out and keep in touch with people that we cared about through Zoom and platforms like that, right?
Yes. Yeah, because I wouldn't, to be honest with you, I completely don't know what I would have done if it wasn't like my partners. We have our productions. We stayed podcasting, on StreamYard. Like we went through the whole pandemic together like that. If it
Yeah.
wasn't for that, I might have not been doing too well.
No, I'm with you too, because I'm an extrovert, and so it was not easy. But yeah, being able to stay on here, yeah, that makes a world of difference. You think about the people who went through the pandemic back in, what is it, 1918? They didn't have that, so I don't know how they did it. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
we have it good. We got to start taking things, being more grateful and seeing how,
Mm.
just being more grateful for things. But
you know
through things
that's
like this and conversations, maybe people or something to click.
yeah. And I think that's one of the things that helps me. When you talked about my attitude towards life, I have a gratitude practice. I do. And it's one of the things I do every morning. I get up and I consciously think of something and I write it down in a journal, at least one thing, that I'm grateful for that morning. And what I think it does is it sets your day out on the
Yeah.
right path, right?
Yep.
Because even if you get up tired, you didn't sleep enough or whatever, now you're starting to think about, what am I grateful for anyway? So you don't go out of the house in a bad mood, right?
Yes. Yes. That's so important. I did that this morning. I went to the store, and then as I was walking, I was doing a little broadcasting, and then speaking about setting, intentionally, setting the day, you
The day's
know.
intentions, yeah,
Hmm. Yep.
yeah, so
That's
important.
awesome.
Yeah,
That is awesome. I love this. I love
yeah.
this. Oh goodness. Um, Okay, let me stop playing. So, no, yes, okay. So how is it? What is it that other people with platforms and
Mm,
also, the listeners, what is it that they can do to help, when it comes to these kind of topics, or when it comes to the transgender community, because
mm,
I see that I never really see a healthy conversation. Just today I was listening to a TikTok and the audience was just so nasty.
no,
Just saying some things you shouldn't even just said. You could have kept that to yourself.
yeah,
But then
yeah.
the ones up on they weren't that much better either, so like
Mm,
accountability on both parts. But what is it that you would say, what could, because there's too much violence and
that's right.
deaths too, right? And that's just crazy.
Oh yeah.
No one should
Yeah,
have to
there's a
face
lot of
that.
gender. Well, there's a lot of gender violence out there, right?
Yeah.
And we have Transgender Day of Remembrance coming up November 20th every year. That's about folks that are gender nonconforming and trans that have been murdered due to their gender. And of course, we know about gender violence with women face violence all the time, so that's
Yeah.
gender-based violence as well. Um, I think the thing we can do is we can speak up. One of the things that is important to me is that more good people speak up, because a lot of times the good people are quiet because they don't want to ruff anybody's feathers or cause
Yeah.
any ruckus, right? So they're just quiet and don't say anything. And I think there's ways to speak up that don't start a fight.
Yeah.
There's ways to say, if somebody says something off colored. I talked to the guys in Positive Masculinity about this. If somebody makes a nasty comment about women, which sometimes when guys are hanging out, that'll happen, right?
Yeah.
Somebody makes a derogatory comment about women, and a lot of guys won't say anything because they don't want to start a fight with this guy. Even if they're good guys, they may not say anything. And I said, you know what you can say? You can say, I don't feel that way. And I have a lot of women in my life that I love. So I don't believe that. And I think, we need to be more supportive. And then you've put it back on, if this is how I feel about it, instead of telling him, you're an idiot, or because that may start a fight,
Yeah.
right?
All about your delivery, right?
Right. It's about the delivery. That's right. As a lot of us probably heard from our grandma or whatever, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yep.
There's a lot of truth in that, right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
It's so true, right? Because as I was sitting here listening to you, right, and how how your demeanor and your attitude and everything is, it made me take I reflected back on like, I guess I'm learning the word cis women
Cisgender.
and
Yep.
transgender women, and
Right.
that comfortability, and me sitting in the cis, at the cis table. I can honestly say that I felt a way too, but I think it was only because of where the messages was coming from with certain, it wasn't directed at me, but it's like it was still me when it was, it's kind of one of those things like, but you are talking to me, even though not directly, when you're calling me
Right.
everything but who I am, or you're saying that we're just baby carriers, and then
Right.
not even giving us a chance to feel a certain way, just automatically like, yeah, you ain't, it's like,
Yeah.
yo, like,
Oh,
what?
yeah.
So a lot of women didn't feel comfortable like saying anything, because as soon as you do, they'll get you with that, kind of label. You make it seem like you're anti
Right.
something, and that's not okay, right?
It isn't
So
okay. And that's not how I talk or teach, as you can tell. And I even talk to young activists in the trans community. And, what I bring them back to is, what is our goal? Is our goal just to yell in people's faces? For what end? Right? Or
yeah,
is our goal to actually create more understanding and
exactly.
change hearts and minds to be able to open up? And and
Hmm.
if our goal is to create more understanding, then we need to be able to have, like you and I talked about at the beginning, conversations where we're
Yeah,
not yelling at each other or calling each other names or putting each other down, because people shut down then.
yeah, yeah. And then this whole reason why no one wants to speak up or say anything, because it's like, you
That's right.
know,
Yeah.
and it's crazy because you figure like the people that are the ones, trying to fight for them to be able to be themselves and be
Yeah.
accepted, you think they'd understand the most. But it was like the ones that were making, the women feel like, unless you're one of those people, like you're like, yeah, let's go. But
Yeah.
genuinely just wanted to understand or be able to have a voice too. It felt, a lot of women felt like no one considered. Yeah, I was like,
I
move,
understand.
move away,
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
and that's
Yeah. They would just, if you're saying in any way or not understanding that a trans woman is a woman, or talking that your experience may be different than hers, then you're not being supportive. And
right.
that's, there is a difference. One of the things I always try to point out too is that it's important to understand how we were socialized. So if you're a cis woman, and let me just give a quick education, because not all of your listeners may know what that word means. Cis, it's spelled CIS. It's a term from biology and science that means matching. It means the same, matching. So that means it means how you feel inside matches your sex at birth,
Wow.
according to today's gender standards. The word trans in biology and science means opposites. So that's where this comes from. That means the sex you were assigned at birth, or your biological sex, is not how you feel inside, right? You're opposite of that. So just to give your audience a little idea of where these words come from, I think it's good to help people understand.
Yeah.
But, one of the ways I try to get people to see is that we've all transitioned. I want you to think, I have no idea how old you are, and I'm not going to ask you because I was raised a Southern gentleman. I would never ask anyone how old they are. But
42.
okay, you
Don't
look
mind telling.
wonderful. And
Thank you.
and here's what I want to ask you. If you looked back at your school yearbook, or thought back of yourself in high school, or are you the same person?
Wait, 43. I'm sorry. But am I the same person? Oh no, no, no. Mm-mm.
Exactly. You've transitioned from that, haven't you?
I surely have.
This is what I
Surely
get
have.
people to understand. A lot of times we look back at the pictures of us in a yearbook or something, and we're thinking, "Good Lord, look at that hairstyle," or "Look at what I was wearing," or you know what I mean.
Right?
You're like, and so we've all transitioned from that. And every 10 years, if we looked back, we'd think, God, I thought I knew everything back then when I was 20, and now that I'm 40, I realize I didn't know much of anything when I was 20. Right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we've all transitioned, and many times in our lives. It's just that with transgender people, that is very physically visible, right? But that helps people understand that you're not the same person you were in your high school or middle school
Right.
yearbook. You know what I mean? So we've all transitioned. And what I try to help people understand then is that gives you maybe some understanding, you know,
Yeah.
for trans people, because none of us are the same as we were back in middle school or back in high school or back in,
Very true. Good way of putting it, right? Yeah.
yeah,
I love that. Most
yeah,
definitely. I mean, you know, I truly believe, and I would like to even too, because I can say I was sitting on a part where I just didn't, I felt away. And I'm just like, I don't feel, I have a friend that, kind of like went with it through her when she transitioned. But then
hmm,
and she did a few shows and I was supportive, but inside still, I still was a little confused. And maybe sometimes it just
yeah,
takes the right person to explain and get you to understand more, or even you wanting to understand more, because I don't want to stay stuck in like I don't get it. And because it's never me being malicious and just being like you're not. It's more of it was
right,
me not understanding and feeling maybe not heard or understood. I can honestly say, speaking with you today, because I knew it's happening for a reason, because I heard the conversation earlier and our shows today. I just knew that it meant something, and it really is sending me away on a more, on a better, more positive, more I understand more, and it's not an attack on, you know, uh,
no,
women or any of the sort. So, because a
well,
lot of us felt that way.
well, that's wonderful. And here's the thing. I have been called since I was young. I knew my calling was to be a teacher. And I really have a teacher's heart. So I try to find a way to reach each person, because I don't believe the teacher is taught until the student is learned. And so, in other words, it's my responsibility to figure out how to reach each person, and you
Yeah,
can't do it all the same. Not
exactly.
everybody's the same, right? You can't reach them all the same.
I'll learn
So,
different learning styles. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so it's about us creating understanding for one another. Like, I would never pretend, to understand your journey walking through the world as a person of color. That would be stupid of me, right? What I should do is try to let you
Yeah.
explain it to me and understand from your experience.
Yeah.
So for somebody to try to understand the trans experience that's not trans, you know what I mean? You have to
Yeah.
just like open and listen to a trans person, but you have to listen to one that's called to teach, not just somebody that's barking. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah, yeah,
different
or
ones
coming
that
from
look,
a place of like irritability and stuff.
yeah,
'Cause I listened to a bunch of trans women one time talking, and they were like, people were asking them questions, like women, cis women, and they were like, it's not our job to educate you guys."
yeah,
And I was thinking, I was like, actually, I think it is. Who else is supposed to? I think it really is. If depending on what you want people to accept it, to understand, and
yeah,
then you're gonna have to do some teaching. But they just
yeah.
weren't the ones for the job.
Well, that's a hard thing. I've heard people of color have the same issue that a lot of them have. White people expect them all to explain to them everything, and not everybody's called to be a teacher. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, not not all of us are called to be teachers. I am.
Yeah.
And so that is my calling. And I think it's better to go to somebody that's their calling.
Yeah.
You know?
Little secret, something else we can bond on. Teacher
Yeah.
too. I teach too.
Yeah. Yay.
Kinder to eighth. I did charter schools and
Oh, that's awesome.
elementary. So yeah.
Yeah.
Then just did summer camp. So yay.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
very
And
true.
and
Not
if
everybody can
that's
teach.
not your calling, you're not going to have a lot of patience for people
Nope.
wanting you to explain yourself all the time. Right?
Mm-mm. Nope. It's
So,
definitely not one of those jobs you get. You'd be like, I think I'm just gonna teach because I heard they make it, and it's like, no, no, no. Do
yeah,
you like children, or do you
right.
like people, but do you like children? And
That's
do
the thing.
you have the patience? Because I've seen teachers will cry and just can't
Yeah, I have too.
handle it.
Yeah, I have too. Yeah, and can you find different ways to reach different types of people?
Yes, you have to be
Because not
creative.
everybody learns the same.
Yeah, you have the same learning style. And I had a
Right.
show the other day. I was telling like how the system and education is set up to like to meet this expectation instead of bringing it to where they're at and reach them, right? And it's
Right. The
I'm like, well,
teacher,
the teachers need to be retaught.
well, here's the thing. I always go by as a teacher myself. I say the teacher hasn't taught until the student learns. That means you have to find a way to reach that
Yep.
student.
Yep.
And it's not always going to be the same, right? Every student's a little different.
Yep. I
So
know
that's
those
a challenge.
days. We're at the drawing board again, like every day. We
Right.
were like just before the pandemic. Me and another teacher, we spent like half of the school year with these second and third graders in our classroom, trying to get them to have empathy and kindness for each other. These
Oh,
kids were just so mean to each other. I was like, "Yo, you guys are not even
yeah.
married or like anything like nothing's going on here. You guys just are so not saying that's what married people do. I'm just saying, you have
Yeah.
time to argue, and that's just how they were, just like." So, and it was never a bother to me to like, it was fun actually to try to find different ways to bring them together, to work together, to teach them. But it was work. Like regular people that aren't called to teach, it'd have been like throwing the towel, probably cursing them out and some kind of
That's right.
stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen that before.
Well, yeah, we're much stronger collaborating and working together, right, than we are all
Yeah.
off. But we live in a society, especially in Western culture, that teaches individualism.
Mm,
And, I don't think that's the best thing for us.
it
We
is.
were made to be in community together. That's the way
Yeah.
we were created.
Yeah.
And so we have to learn to work together, and we're so much better and stronger together.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you got to be
Yes.
willing to share the credit and share the load too.
Yep. Very much so. Oh man, so much work to be done. It's like we're supposed to progress, not regress. Like
That's
what's going
right.
on here?
That's right.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. If we could just get everybody on the same path of progression, that would be, like all wanting to progress together, working toward it. That would be great.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it kind of starts with people being kinder to themselves and loving themselves,
Good.
and then it'll go out to other people. And I don't, a lot of people see it that way. It's like when you get hateful or spiteful people, I'm like, I don't think they really even love themselves, because one that truly respects and loves themselves know what that is, and they're gonna show it. And when you feel that way, you don't have room or time to like
That's right.
be, so
Yeah, it's hard to respect and love others if you have no love and respect for yourself. That's right.
right. And if somebody tells me that they do, I'm like, and they're just like the worst and spiteful to people, I'm like, yeah, right.
Yeah,
No, you don't.
no, yeah,
How does that even make
got that
sense?
right. Yeah, exactly true. Yeah,
Oh,
I
and
love.
I go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I was loving the way you were talking about, working with kids, and it's so. I think we can do so much to change the conversation. Just teaching kids that you're stronger by working together, and teaching them to accept people that are different than them, and that actually enhances their lives instead of, there's nothing wrong with somebody being different. We shouldn't feel threatened by it if we're secure in who we are.
Amen to that. Amen. Yeah, I have like a bullying campaign that I very passionate about. Didn't think it'd be so hard to get people to actually
Mm,
not just say they're against it, but like join me. Let's like do this. But
yeah.
it's what I'm called to do, and if I have to do it alone, or it's just something that has to be done. And you know, but it's about like teaching children about the difference, that people are different and it's okay. And because we know kids could be mean, right? They're
Oh yeah.
kids. They can, and if you don't get to them and talk to them about these things, you just kind of just let them sit with that, and they make fun, and no one's saying anything, and it's kind of like no, I used to
Mm,
see stuff like that where we get a child that come in like from another country, are Muslim, and you know how they wear
yeah, the
yeah,
hijab. Yeah.
yeah. And I
Mhm.
saw like right in my face, like one of the kids say something kind of crazy to, and I think he
Right.
looked at him, he was like, "Aren't you hot?" Or like he said some like and some other stuff, right? And I was like, I looked at him, I said, and he's like, "What?" And it was innocent. He didn't mean to, but when I explained to him, he kind of had this look on his face, like, "Oh," I said, "See, that's all it takes if you just explain to them,
Well, it goes back to that conversation we were having earlier about the power of curiosity. Instead of putting it down, be curious about it, because then you're learning about
Yeah,
something, right? It's just shifting the perspective of the conversation, right?
yeah,
Instead of putting something down that's different than or different than you do, be curious about learning about it.
yeah, most definitely. And this
Yeah.
is an amazing thing to teach and then to work with kids also too, because they're much brighter than people really give them. And
Oh, they're little sponges,
sometimes,
right?
yeah, sometimes they got more act right than adults do.
That's right. Sometimes from the mouth of babes, right? Yeah.
Yep, like you heard it from the
Yeah,
baby.
that's right.
Oh man, Mac, there's so much, like, because I had 1, 2, 3, 4, and I know we only have so much time, but I would still love to be able to have you back on,
Of
do some
course.
other work, other
Yes.
platforms, but really
Yeah.
just carry these, conversations and topics, to in different settings, and I just because I just want to, it's something about you that's drawing me. You know
Oh,
what I
thank
mean?
you.
And
Go back to that curiosity thing. One of the things I would say to your listeners, and if we just approach things that we don't understand or that are different from us through the lens of curiosity, not judgment, but
yeah,
through the lens of curiosity, just think how much better our lives would be, right? And how much more acceptance there would be in the world too, because we aren't then approaching things through the eyes of judgment because somebody's different, but
right.
curiosity, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's very important because some people carried that message from they were younger, and then they just keep, were brought up that way, and it's like you got to break that, chain at some point and
Yeah.
accept people. Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely.
I try to live my life through that lens of curiosity all the time,
Yeah,
and it keeps life interesting. It keeps me grateful for new experiences, right? Because then I'm learning something new. Like, it's just a wonderful lens to look at life through.
Yeah. Well, then who the heck made that term? Curiosity killed the cat, because I guess
Somebody
a
that was
certain amount.
somebody that wanted to keep all of us in a little box.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
Like, oh, you're asking too much. You're asking too much.
that's right.
I always
Yeah,
tell people, we asking all the wrong questions. We're not asking the right questions. And when you start
yeah,
asking the right questions, they be like,
that's right. Yeah,
like, hey, I'm not on Twitter anymore. What happened?
yeah. I've never understood how people can get bored, because there's so many interesting things to explore that we don't know about yet or
Right.
don't fully understand yet. So how in the heck can you ever get bored, right?
Yeah. Uh,
And there's so many people you haven't met and talked to, and it's
yeah. I feel like we have to strike that in people, like bring it, like kind of like I don't like to use the word virus, because sometimes people should be just for saying the word, but kind of like that too, like let
yeah,
something that spreads, like the
yeah,
curiosity and all that stuff, and it gets catchy. Because all these trends that are like negative or not even useless, then let's
yeah.
start trending, positive thoughts, behaviors, and attitudes, and how to treat one another, and let that catch.
That's right. You want to stay young and have more of a flourishing life. Stay curious.
Yeah.
It's people get old that just sit in the chair and think they've experienced everything and they know everything, right? They get old fast.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is true.
yeah.
I love it. I love it so much. Well, I don't want to let you go.
Oh, well, we can do it again. We'll do it again.
Look, when we get off, I'm gonna be like, darn, I forgot to ask
That's why we can do it again.
my best one.
Great.
For sure, for sure. We
Great
definitely,
to talk to
everyone, we
you.
would definitely have Mac back. Yeah, it's great talking to you too. You like made my day. You really did.
Oh, thank
Truly
you.
did.
It's been a pleasure to get to chat with you and get to know you a little bit.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you so much. Before we let you go, though, we want to ask you a question. We want to ask you, out of your whole journey and what you do and your experiences, what are you most grateful for,
Mm.
and that was the biggest lesson,
Ooh, the biggest lesson. Hmm.
like life changer.
Wow. I mean, I've had so many amazing experiences in life, honestly. Um, and I would say my biggest lesson has been to stay curious.
Mm,
That's keeps the fire going in me, right? It keeps my zest for life every day. Is that the whole magic of curiosity. I think it's a magic. I think it's a tool of magic because it keeps us thriving. It keeps us happy to get up every day and experience a new day, to meet new different types of people. I'm already loving this connection you and I have and want to know more about you too. So but when you approach the world through the lenses of curiosity, it changes everything. It's a
yeah,
magical gift, curiosity is.
yeah, yeah. I think it kind of goes along with like imagination too, right?
Yes. Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was I like that answer. That was awesome. That was
Oh,
awesome.
thank you.
I know the listeners are definitely, this is, I already knew this was going to be one, for my listeners. And I'm just so grateful to have had you on here today and to have you come back. Your wife is very blessed to have you, your
Oh,
grandchildren, and your
I'm very
stepchild,
blessed to have them too. Yes.
and your little animals too, because I was reading.
Oh, yeah. I do. I'm a big animal lover. Yeah,
Tell me, that's why we got to talk later. We got to. That's why I'm doing
for
this show
sure.
on different platforms, so people can just stop looking at animals as meat, or just
Oh,
like just these
yeah.
things. I'm like, no, they're just as important. And yeah, just I don't know. I
They
just love them.
teach us, my puppy Obi-Wan is his name, Obi-Wan.
Was that from Obi?
From Star Wars.
Mm,
Yeah. I would say, they our animals can teach us so much every day. Like he reminds me every day to be present and in the moment, to take a little time to play each day, right?
yeah,
and they have unconditional love that reminds us about unconditional love all the
Yep.
time, right?
Yep.
They love us even if our feet stink or we haven't had a bath, right? They still love us.
Yep. That is so true. So
Or
true.
even when we're in a bad mood, they still love us.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. You learn a lot by, nature, like animals in general. They're just so they're true to like the order of life, like how it's
Yeah.
supposed to be done, like they have this respect, they I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but
Yeah.
there's it's just
Well, we
wisdom.
can learn. We can learn
Yeah.
from anything if we're willing to open our mind and our eyes and see it
Yeah.
through that lens, right? Of what can I
Yeah.
learn from you? Every new person I meet, I'm always like, what can I learn from them? That keeps me young, I think. And when I meet an animal, I think it's a gift, and what can I learn from this experience with this animal? Because
Yeah.
they all have their own wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
we can learn something from every connection.
Yeah, very much so. I'm gonna throw this out there real quick. So I didn't know if you know this, but did you know that elephants they have very good memory? Did you hear about the elephant that killed this woman, and at the funeral walked a few miles to go to her funeral because she wasn't done with her, and finished her off some more, and I think went to her house and destroyed it too, because I think the woman had something to do with the calf. I don't know if it died or it was stolen, but it had something to do with her youngin, and and I was just so amazed, and I was like, hmm. And it just
I'll tell you
amazing.
what, that is so interesting. Yeah, that the elephant didn't forget and knew. That's so interesting because I had experience with elephants in South Africa, and I got to walk with a baby elephant,
Oh,
and I got
that's
to spend time with the whole elephant family. But there was a baby elephant that I got to spend some time playing with. It's so magical,
I would love to love
and
elephants.
oh, just such a magical experience. Yeah,
Very
and if you
loving.
have good intentions, they are really smart and they can sense your intention.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, very much so. Man, that's awesome. I would love to do that. Love elephants.
yeah, it's very cool.
Wow. Yeah, we got so much to talk about. We'll find
Oh,
time
sure.
just to talk and then get to know each other more and then,
Yeah,
take
we'll
it
have
from
to make
there.
that happen.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Well, what would
Definitely.
you like to say to your new friends, to your audience, listeners? What would you like to take them out on? Do you want to leave them with some links, social media, or some words of wisdom?
Certainly. Well, first of all, go to my website, positivemasculinitynow.org. And one of the things that we're doing right now is we just started our first ever essay contest, and anyone can write about a positive masculine role model in your life and why they're a positive masculine role model. Because we're trying to shine a light on those out there that are doing good things. And so go to our website. Anybody 11 all the way up to 100 can write about a positive masculine role model. And so it's positivemasculinitynow.org. And then I would just say to everybody, embrace curiosity in your life. It'll keep you young and it makes life exciting because then every experience you have with every person you meet, you get curious about what can I learn from this, right? It's a wonderful gift.
Yes, I love it. Yes. Got me thinking right now. When I get off of here, back to
Yeah.
creativity. Oh man, I love this so much. You made my day. Thank you so so much.
Thank
And
you.
to the listeners, I hope that well, I know, but I hope that you guys learned and really enjoyed this episode here behind the mic. One of my newest shows that we aired on the big podcast International Podcaster Day. So you get to be
Yay.
the second.
Oh, wow. I'm honored.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yes, that's
So people
wonderful.
have something to live up to, It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta bring a game.
Yes. That's
But
awesome.
thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Mac. And we
You.
will be seeing each other soon.
Yes, for sure. Let's make a date to have coffee.
Most definitely.
Awesome.
Okay, guys, until next time, this was Brandy J and Mac McGregor. Peace out.